what's crazy is, are you ready for the joke? This is actually straight fire. Is in a way, I can't tell whether or not this is the dream, are you ready, of the 90s Republicans who wanted NAFTA. They wanted like trade agreements between all of the Americas. And you remember the original plan that all the conspiracy was that they were going to make it in a one continent, and it would have like, it would call, remember they were going to like get rid of the dollar was the thing, and it was going to be the Amero, and it would like be this currency. I can't tell whether they've succeeded or whether actually the enemies of America, the so-called, you know, terrorists of the war on terror, whose famous saying was, death to America, because which is it? Is North America dead in League of Legends? Even though, by the way, guys, North America invented League of Legends. Like, you had the home region the whole time. So I don't know how we've ended up in a world where, that's right, guys, as we watch right now, if people don't know, the news is, shall I tell you, I'm going to break the fourth wall here, right? Monty didn't guess, you stupid fox. He didn't just start randomly guessing about a year and a half out, like, what if they were like to combine like CB LoL and like, they'd be a bit specific. Like, here's what I don't get, Monty. They simultaneously think you don't know anything about the industry, but then they also don't credit you for what should be the craziest pull of all time. Like, didn't you say like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now? It's quite a while ago you started on that topic, right? Because it was like the Super League era, so it was ages ago, man.
It's not only that, they announced everything that I've been talking about at the same time. The movement to 3 splits, the additional international tournament as a result of the movement to 3 splits, and the merger of the Americas. I've been telling you guys all of these things for over a year at this point in time. I don't know what I can say to you guys anymore. It is crazy. The writing was definitely there on the wall the whole time. This has been behind the scenes, the subject of conversation forever. Guys, forever.
You have to also think as well, Monty, like, I'm pretty sure as well, cynically, part of it was from Counter-Strike. Because you know this, famously, especially during the so-called pandemic, like, the joke became, for real, that we all used to say the dream final is any Brazilian team against Na'Vi, because then you just got, like, the 2 biggest viewer bases at the time was actually Russian language and fucking, like, Brazilians, basically. Whoever it might be. Didn't even have to be the best Brazilian team, by the way. Any Brazilian team playing would just get, like, the Gaules stream, and it would get all those viewership. So I actually feel like also part of it had to be looking at that, because that was one of the ways in CS that we sort of like re-injected the viewership base, as it was. We had a bunch of Brazilian teams. By the way, we had a fucking major in Brazil because of this, guys.
Well, it's also, Thorin, been a huge factor in Valorant. In fact, if you look at the VCT Shanghai numbers, obviously part of it's going to be due to time zones, but Western viewership was actually way down for the Shanghai major. Now, Asian viewership was up, again, because of time zone, because Gen G won, etc. Korean viewership was up, etc. But a big part of that was that there wasn't a Brazilian team at this tournament, and therefore the Portuguese language streams weren't there, and that really took down Western viewership pretty substantially. And so we know that Riot is aware. Like, CBLOL is just more watched than LCS right now. That's just straight up true. We've been talking about that. But of course, Thorin, I was told by commissioner of the North American Conference. He actually just got himself demoted.
Bad, isn't it? It's so bad, isn't it? I know.
Commissioner of the North American Conference.
This is this, guys. Even though technically, obviously, this isn't like a bad announcement. In theory, it might be better. All I'm going to say is, technically, Mark Z, there is no LCS already. He's already destroyed it. He's actually, he's he was fucking Anakin Skywalker all along. You thought he was here to save you. He's destroyed the entire LCS. What are you talking about? It's gone now. It's over.
I mean, spoiler, he didn't do any of this or have any say in any of this.
Of course not.
He just decided to take the poison chalice that was the commissionership of the LCS. That was one of the most cursed jobs in existence, and obviously was, because you don't get any power and you just have to message all of the garbage.
I'll give him props though. He is doing a good job at like being the likable, exactly what he was hired for. He's actually killing it. Like, he's just being the likable face of potentially good or bad news and just messaging to people. I think he's doing a good, like, pretty sweet. He's tricked some plebs into thinking he's doing some, of course, yeah.
Well, also, and where he does have power, which is like over some of the stuff on the broadcast, I think he has had good ideas. Like, live patch is kind of whatever to me. I don't think it really moved the needle, but certainly having the pre-recorded drafts was a great idea. He's made the broadcast feel a lot like snappier and more dynamic. Best of threes, big fan of that. So where he can do things, he's helping. But this just goes to show that you have such a minimal amount of control over what Riot does, because they just realigned your entire league and made you commissioner over a conference and not even over a league anymore. It's just funny.
By the way, I've got to get into a quick thing here because you've had to experience it, but everyone in league is now going to experience like why I was gaslit for 10 years. So you ready? You all naively think, you're all so naive. You all still think that the reason they harass me, Brazilian fans, is because I made that rude joke about them years ago. You all think that, don't you? Do you want to know what you don't know? You've got the cart before the horse. The real reason Brazilian fans hated on me, are you ready? Is because when their team was irrelevant, they used to have a team that was like, let's say like 9th best in the world, but they never like win best of threes over anyone. They got like a brand new lineup, which ended up being one of their best rosters ever. It was the roster that ended up winning the major. But in their first ever match on LAN with that roster, they lost 0-16, the largest score you can lose by in Counter-Strike. So after a brand new roster lost 0-16 and had never done anything before that, are you ready? Me and people like Richard Lewis had the audacity to predict they wouldn't beat, are you ready? Like the number 7 best team in the world, 6 best team in the world, the 5 best team, and the number 4 best team in the world, right? And then we accurately predicted they wouldn't be the best team in the world, but we were wrong on that one as well, because even if you're right, you're wrong in Brazilians' minds. So that was what got the original hit, was that we predicted against them to win a match. And so what happened was when the hit went to a fever pitch, like you're experiencing now, Monty, I'm not like other people. I have that like double indemnity shit. It's like, you know what, mate, if you're going to hit on me anyway, fuck it, bombs, I may as well do anything at this point in time. I'm already getting the punishment. I can say anything I want at this point. Fuck it, let's just go. Let's absolutely push the boat out. Because what is actually, even though you're saying it like as thinking it's like a rhetorical statement, Monty, what you don't get is I've never been American, but the go-to always was 9/11 jokes. Think about this for a second, guys. I'm being serious. If you don't know, supposedly they claim in Brazil it's actually like literally like a bit like America, but even more so. They claim it's actually literally like illegal to be racist against Brazilians. Like they say if you're in Brazil, you could actually have like a court case put against you if you said something disparaging about someone. I don't know if this is true. This is what they claim to me on the internet, right? But the reason why that is mad is because the same people who, if you were to say something like, maybe it's a good thing if we combine League of Legends regions for viewership, they will act like that's hate speech. You're hating on us. Then the same person turns around and goes, 9/11, that was hilarious when all those people died in that terrorist attack. You're part of the same people that died in a horrific terrorist attack. And then you're supposed to go, wow, maybe I need to fix my relationship, my toxic relationship with the fans. Like, bro, they actually go, because the other angle, you know this as well. The other angle, which is boring as fuck in the modern day, by the way, is Brazilian fans do the ultimate have your cake and eat it, which is, are you ready? They go, ha, you queer. And then when you go, what the fuck? They go, but I'm not homophobic. So they simultaneously go, we don't hate gays, and they go, but you're probably gay. Ha ha! Look at this guy's naked dick. Do you like that? Ha ha! And then you go, because I always say this, what's the punchline? No, but I'm being serious. Like, if that's a meme on me that this guy's like, if you don't know, it's a very famous football player apparently. I don't know. It's some like Brazilian football player who apparently at one point, apparently, by the way, the actual story, Richard Lewis knows it, of course he does, is actually quite cool, which is, believe it or not, that guy actually took that shoot, it's claimed, because actually not because he's gay, but actually to try and be like, to send like a message that he didn't like want people being horrible to gay people, supposedly, because he was like considered like a sex symbol, he's like a footballer. He actually intentionally did like a photo shoot like that in like a gay fucking softcore mag or something, just to show him like I'm not against that. But what's weird I don't get is every one of his fans that since used that image, you're using it for the opposite of what you're doing is doing it for, you idiot. Your whole meme is look at his dick. If you look at it, you're gay, which apparently is the punchline, which is like,
I know, and all of them are like,
day, you know?
This person tweeted something I don't like. A totally straight person, am going to open my naked dude folder on my phone and start sending you.
There was a joke like that back in the day where what we did was, our joke was that like as you're saying, the joke was it would be a picture of like, you know, Windows ME or whatever, you know, like one of those like UIs. And it was like every Brazilian fan's like gay naked man folder. It's like 98 gigabyte or whatever, you know. It was like the meme, you know, like CS is 2 gig and then that folder's like 98 gig of naked football picture. Because the other thing, you're right, they've got like every picture from that photo shoot, you know, they've got the one of him on like the net, they've got the one of him with the dick like that. The worst thing about it is this as well, Monty. When you people like me and Richard, it took me years before I stopped looking at replies. That is one of the images just like burned into my brain. Like if I see my life flash before me, so when that image just come out of all the images.
Look, and to be fair, the one of him, you know, much. Lying on his side erotically is a very funny picture, and it
is hilarious. Yes,
Thorin, I will give the Brazilian fans some credit on this one. So over his crotch this time, they posted the image of like the no LCS symbol, like the logo with the red circle.
It's better than seeing the dick. So yeah, fair enough. Okay.
So I thought they actually did do a pretty funny job of it this time.
Even that in itself is so fucking stupid, because if people don't know, originally that symbol even just meant like no entry or don't do this thing.
Sure.
But doing it as like it doesn't make sense what it means for LCS though, because here's the part that makes even less sense. Are you ready, guys? Stop it. The LCS is what we're already doing. You've got it the wrong way around, you dumb fuck. You want the LCS to come back. You've actually failed on the most basic factual level. Like, you don't want the LCS to go away. You're saying stop doing the LCS. Now stop doing the LCS. And by the way, we're memeing about it now, Monty, because I have to warn everyone. I will dominate. Anyone, by the way, who's in any way critical, they are going to go about like this the whole time. It's just the way it's going to be. You have to just accept it for real. You have to just take it like it's like the rain, Monty. You can't complain. You just put your coat on and you go out, or you choose not to go out that day, right? But the reason I bring it up is there's a more serious point here, which is I actually do think there's something to be said about this, right? As far as I can tell, Monty, they don't really believe it's actually going to be worse. Don't listen to anyone who says that. They're just mad that like it's not just going to be only Brazilian, and that essentially now I think, for example, they don't like the idea, Monty, that LCS sort of withered on the vine, and now LCS is going to sort of try and reach off their league, right? By the way, that's a totally legitimate opinion to have. Yeah. I even think as well, one thing in the modern day people have gotten way better out of shape over is, you know, there's this notion of like, oh my God, they're xenophobic. By the way, I can tell you from my experience, Brazilians are incredibly xenophobic. I mean, as we just described with like the way they're behaving on social media. But here's the problem. It only makes context to critique someone's xenophobia in a setting where that would be a bad thing. Like, for example, if you yourself were a part of Brazilian culture and they were being horrible to you, you could say that's xenophobic. Right? How as an outsider can you tell them not to be xenophobic? If they want to be, if as a country they want to have their own league and they want to say, we don't care what benefits it is, fuck off. We want to, I don't have a problem with that personally. No. Like, I would obviously rather this league got combined. I didn't find CB Law very interesting. I'm an elitist, but I don't hate, like, if it wasn't for the way they expressed it, I don't hate the sentiment. They're totally fine to be like, hey, our league was healthy as it is, leave us be. You know, that's totally fine. I don't mind that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sentiment there, too, is that they're not concerned about international results. They just kind of want to, you know, to see their own domestic league with Brazilian players. And I think that's totally respectable. So, you know, if they don't care about being integrated into the global circuit. And I do think that they have legitimate beefs to pick, because if LCS hadn't been horrendously mismanaged, if League of Legends player base in North America hadn't been horrendously undermarketed to, if they hadn't, you know, done the exclusivity in high schools that they did that ended up killing like youth participation in the league, like, you know, this wouldn't necessarily be as big of a deal. And, you know, Brazil has a good grassroots scene that has been steadily growing. They have their own community. They have their own co-streamers. They have their own, you know, public figureheads. They have their own players who have been playing the game for as long or longer than anybody in the LCS. I mean, for fuck's sake, Tinones is still playing, right? Like, that's amazing that he's still playing 10, 12 years into his career, right?
Oh, he's longer than anyone in LCS, yeah.
Yeah, it is, like, straight up just longer than anybody in LCS. Yep. You know, and I would be pissed too if I saw that, for example, all of these teams were spending all this money and LCS had turned into an import league. And you don't want that to happen to you if you want to watch Brazilian players. And if you don't care about international results, then there is no reason to really import players. And even though, of course, they have imported players like Crown, Ole, famously Korean players who played in Brazil before actually doing, you know, going to other regions and making, you know, Crown eventually becoming like a world champion when he was playing on Samsung, right? But for the most part, the players who go to Brazil don't do it cynically, and they really do try when they get there, because even if you know, it's not a retirement community, they are playing hard because they want to either do well in Brazil for its own sake, or because they want to, you know, leave and join like a tier 1 region. So, you know, you didn't have a lot of, I would say, dead weight. So I think, like, you know, it's understandable why they're frustrated. I get it. I do think that combining the league is really the only way that you could possibly save LCS on this death spiral. And if you have to ask me, what is the better business decision? LCS dying is a horrible business decision for Riot, because this is the region where they can make the most money in terms of advertising and probably sales in terms of skins per viewer / player. So allowing this, it's also just embarrassing, right? It's way more embarrassing than CB LOL's viewership going down or Brazilian viewership going down. So I think there's a lot there that, purely from a business perspective, purely from an ego perspective, Riot doesn't want to have this go away. This is a premier league. They sell this to sponsors as a premier product. Viewers are simply worth more on a per viewer basis from North America to advertisers than Brazilian fans are. So I think it makes sense. And also what I find weird about this whole argument, Thorin, is that sure, they are allegedly trying to go down to 6 Brazilian teams from 4, right? Which is part of the anger, is that 4 teams are going to get cut, and these are native Brazilian teams, and they have fan bases in Brazil, even if they're not the Louds or Furias or maybe some of the other big teams that have existed there that have significant fan bases. Like, I can understand why you're getting frustrated about that. But here's the thing. It's all proposed. Apparently, Thor, I'm the only one who has ears to listen or eyes to read, because there is a very crucial load-bearing word that is uttered in the video and is in the article that they released on lolesports, which is that the Americas region is proposed right now. Now, if you look at the language for the APAC, the Pacific region, where they're killing VCS and they're combining it with PCS, LJL, and LCO, which is the Australian New Zealand League, that is happening. They say there specifically, we are creating a new league. And the difference, guys, is that CBLOL and LCS are franchised. So they can't just get rid of these teams. Remember the process for what happened when they tried to get rid of teams, or they offered buyouts to EG and Golden Guardians. What we know is they said, hey, do you want $6 million to fuck off and, break your team participation agreement? And EG and Golden Guardians, and apparently almost 100 Thieves said yes. Okay? So when we talk about how this has to work, they need 4 CBLOL teams to leave, but they are in a contractual relationship with them right now, and they need 2 more LCS teams to leave. But this is going to create a very sticky situation, guys, because the thing about it is that why did EG and Golden Guardians leave? Okay, EG paid $30 million for their slot. Golden Guardians paid $10 million for their slot originally. So they took massive losses, obviously EG much greater than Golden Guardians on the way out, plus all of the money they had paid over the years when it came to salaries, everything to operate their teams. They just decided to cut their losses and get out, right? Because they didn't want to continuously, incur costs, and they thought, well, we can't sell this to anybody because nobody wants this asset. Okay, so, but the difference now is there's hope. There's hope, guys. So there's a few differences that are happening. Last year, the teams were all getting totally destroyed by esports winter, to the degree that Riot said, you know what, we're going to freeze your payments of franchise fees, because they didn't pay the $10 million up front. They've been paying it in installments. They said, you know what, we're going to freeze those for a while. They may have waived them entirely, I don't know, but they at least stalled them out. And the thing is, they were also doing the rev share last year, which was like, I don't know, around $1.5 million to each of the LCS teams. And they had to accelerate that payment because otherwise the teams may not have been able to pay their bills. Okay, you say, wow, that's a lot of money. Well, let's talk about this year, because here's something that people don't know, which is that when the new team participation agreement, and you saw the business announcement about this a couple of months ago, where all of a sudden they said, hey, we're not going to do rev share anymore. We're just going to do a stipend. Well, that stipend is $1 million more than the rev share from last year. Not like $1 million this year, as in they are now getting $2 to $2.5 million per team. So what does this mean, you might ask? Well, current LCS teams, if you are paying the league minimum of $75,000 per player, and you have a $2 million or $2.5 million payment from Riot, well, guys, all of a sudden it becomes really easy to pay your entire roster, all of your coaches, your managers, your housing costs, absolutely everything. And you know what? You're very profitable still, because there's a huge difference between those minimum costs. And so if you're just paying league minimum salaries, you are rolling in it right now. So my question, Thorin, is who, if you are profitable and you see the future and you think, hey, this might work, I might want to be part of that, who wants to get rid of their slot now? You know what I mean? Like, why sell it? And if you do sell it, at what is the cost to Riot? right? And if you are paying a premium if you're Riot, how do you ensure that only 2 teams take that payment? Because they had to offer the payment to everybody before. Maybe they don't now with the new team participation agreement. Maybe there is a buyout. Maybe in the new, I don't know, guys. Maybe in the new team participation agreement, there is a fixed buyout that says Riot can trigger this for X amount of dollars and just kick you out of the league. Maybe that happened. I don't know. But otherwise, it's going to be a really fine balancing act in order to make sure that you only get 2 teams to leave and not more than 2 teams to leave because you're offering $20 million or whatever for a slot, right? Plus, you have the problem with CBLOL. Their slots only cost $800,000. They didn't cost $10 million or $12 million. So how do you pay them out? Do the Southern Conference teams get smaller stipends, Thorin, than the Northern Conference teams? Like if you're in Brazil, do you just get a stipend of $200,000?
This is actually something I want to talk about. I actually do think we need to talk about some of the logistics because some of that isn't explained and I don't understand it. So first of all, it's actually not, as far as I can tell, Monty, as sexy a story as we initially thought. It's not that you actually did just combine all the teams and we got one mega, like America's Super League. Like, first of all, if you look at the conferences look like LCS plus a little bit and then like fucking LCBLOL plus some LLA, right? Isn't it like sort of like split into
so
like
what happens, guys, is basically the conferences are the Northern Conference, the Kingdom of Mark Z, is 6 LCS teams proposed again, 1 LLA team, and they're adding a guest slot. And what this is
guest, isn't it implied that's like an NACL qualifier
team.
Like
so basically what this
just to give that up and down like scenario, right?
If you guys aren't familiar with how they run Valorant, what they do in Valorant is they didn't sell franchise slot. They said you can apply for partnership. They select partner teams who they can kick out at any time, and they give them $1.5 million or so, I think. $1.5 million, something like that. And then they have slots that you can basically from tier 2 go up to. And you can only, if you actually win one of those slots and you're a guest, you can actually only stay there for 2 years before you're automatically removed and put back down to tier 2 and you have to win your way back up again. So this is interesting because, you think, oh, well, G2 is like a big team. Well, they failed to get, because of the drama with Carlos, they failed to get their partnership slot. But they still put together a team. They still ran it through the America's tier 2 league. They got into one of these guest spots, and now they just, what did they place? Top 3? 3rd place at
one of the better teams. I
think they placed top 3 at the latest VCT international event. So even though they're not a partner team, they are a guest team. So I imagine they're trying to replicate this system, Thorin, where it encourages, and I think it's good, right? It encourages both the bottom of the LCS teams who are guaranteed spots to at least be competitive, and it allows other brands or teams to come into tier 2 and try and fight their way into tier 1. So
well, the joke is we know because of our time with the Flashpoint project, like actually a nuanced point people might miss is you might think, well, that's unfair. What if I do really well in the league and then I get kicked out after 2 years? Yeah, we did point out you didn't have to buy in. Like we did the same thing in Flashpoint. We had like an open qualifier spot that came in and they actually ended up coming 3rd in the league. Actually, it was 3rd the first season. And then we didn't invite them back, but they could have come through the same open qualifier. And when people were like, what the hell? They came 3rd. You didn't invite them back. Like, yeah, the other teams had to buy in for like $2 million. Like they are welcome to again come through an open qualifier. Because essentially what Monty's inferring here is the reason why this is actually a good thing is even though, look, you could actually say it's unfair to the teams that are in the league. They have to pay a slot and then this guy just gets to beat in their league. But that's how you make it fair. After 2 years, you get kicked out. But in the meantime, you can benefit from being a sponsored team in the LCS too. You can compete against them. I actually think it's a very fair compromise.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.